The scene is set for Perth by night. The Primogen Council is assembled, including Rafat Duta, Arkham Marquand is there, and the Sheriff, Eric Salvador, is also present. The Prince is not present. No one in the room except Arkham Marquand knows why he's not. And once everyone else is there, they wait patiently for the Prince, of course, possibly, a few whispered conversations, all the political wheeling and dealing that is kindred nature. But the Archon steps up, closes the door, and puts his hands on the back of the head seat, which would be reserved for the Prince. Unfortunately, I have to give you news at short notice. Prince de Lavoisier has been called upon. His expertise is needed by both his clan and the Camarilla elsewhere. He regrets that he's not here in person himself to offer this apology due to not being present. However, he won't be able to continue serving the city and the Camarilla as Prince here. He hopes that you continue on his... At this point, he's actually looking at Hannibal. The good work he has started.
Hannibal returns the gaze.
After you went, what? He's just looking at you for a minute. He's like, now, for the moment, of course, there will be time needed for the court to consider who to replace the Prince. However, for the moment, I do not wish things to return to as they were before Prince de Lavoisier took his position. Right now, if it gets the backing of the Primogen Council majority, I would name Leon Harris as Prince Pro Tempore and Rafat Duta as the Seneschal Pro Tempore, while you deliberate things further. However, there would be given suggestions, things that would restrict the power. For example, while they're in these positions, they cannot gain boons for themselves. They can gain boons for the seats which they hold, maybe the princes. And the boons that can be cashed in on them will be for their persons, not the position once more. While this is in the short term, they will not be able to appoint members of their own coterie to positions unless it has the backing of the Primogen Council majority, and they will not be able to grant domains to members of their clan, actually one of the positions as well, their clan or their coterie members, just so that there's no suggestions afterwards, whether they hold those positions afterwards or not, that there's no suggestions of abuse of power in the short term. Does anyone support this notion?
Leon at this point will step up and say, well, I'm at the very least not opposed to this notion. I honestly ask, though, is there anyone who wishes to step forward as a candidate for Prince at this time besides myself?
Rafat Dutta will stand up and say, at this point, as the Primogen of Clan Tremere, none of our members will be putting themselves forward for such a position. He'll sit down.
I might suggest we go by seniority. Ready? And I'm looking at the 2-3 other Primogen to speak first.
Hannibal actually looks at the ventral Primogen, Mr. Halliwell, and raises an eyebrow as he expects something.
Sebastian would look and say, I understand the severity of the situation. However, I do believe this is a very sudden suggestion. Not that I disagree with the need for such a thing. I do believe it's rather sudden.
I'd actually not to challenge what is on the table, but to extend options, I suggest that we bypass the pro tempore pod because it does shackle the 1/3 of the clans from holding proper positions. And move on with the suggestion of Leon Harris as the prince.
Rafat will speak pretty quickly after Creel finishes before everybody else can speak. In that case, I perhaps leave it if Leon is to be prince. I do think he is a wise suggestion as a permanent prince, that we give him time to consider, at least a few weeks to consider who he would have as seneschal. I don't think we should need to rush into that thing as long as we have his hand guiding us.
Well,
The rest
Hannibal
of
will kind of tip on the table. While that is a very sensitive thing to do, if we do go forward with this vote, maybe Mr. Harris has made up his mind already. Why leave it vacant?
And Leon nods to Hannibal and says, "I honestly believe that if the Primogen Council elects me as prince, I can find people to be in most positions that within likely a week."
Well,
Hannibal, your friend Hannibal, is there anything else you want to say before you continue on to Mies?
Hannibal will just shrug.
Alright then.
Don't let me interrupt you.
Why do you say interrupt? Okay, I'm doing wrong. I, for one, would support a permanent position, prince position or authority of a more laissez-faire attitude towards domain, but that is merely a suggestion of my own and not that of the clan, which will support anything for the good of the tower.
Well, it looks to me there's a vote upcoming. I couldn't hear any rejections.
It appears everyone is in agreement, the Archon says. However, I'll have some private words with your new prince. However, I would like to be the first to congratulate him.
And Leon nods to the Archon.
He kind of moves the chair back, so...
And moves over and sits in the chair.
Now, if I may continue. There are some matters to be discussed. I might raise a suggestion to the Primogen Council. Now, as no doubt the majority of you are aware of the unfortunate events that happened here in the Crown Perth itself not too long ago, where Aeon Silla, Dexter Johnson of Clan Nosferatu, and a neonate of Clan Malkavian, Asherot, both met final death. This is always a great problem, especially for two so promising, but given the unfortunate nature of their demise by diablerie. Unfortunately, that is why Lady Grace Martin is not with us tonight. As for, I imagine it will be at the least an exiling from the city, and at most final death of some nature. I would suggest that her belongings be divided up, with the proceeds going to Clan Malkavian and Clan Nosferatu, and due to it being a ancile of Clan Nosferatu, and on the grounds of prestidigitation, have arguably, legally, suffered a greater loss. It is known that Grace Martin has a skilled ghoul. Perhaps they may be given ownership of such. As well as this, I would suggest perhaps for the long term for both those clans, the domain of the Crown of Perth be given joint ownership of the Primogen seats of those clans. But this is merely a suggestion.
It seems a fair and equitable one.
Bagger will look across to the rather short and wet fella he knows as Hannibal. Grimace inside, but outwardly try not to show that this is more than. I reckon that's not too much trouble.
Clan Nosferatu is absolutely willing to negotiate on these terms, though the details would have to be discussed once we know a bit more about the assets of Grace Martin. After all, we did lose Ancilla, Harpy, Hound, Hand. And to, if I may, my prince, reach out to Clan Toreador. I think we should let them have a part in this, at least a say. It is, after all, also their reputation that was tarnished.
And he turns to Bagger and says, "Well, she was your grandsire, and as I understand it, you yourself staked her and brought her before former Prince Lavoisier. Is there anything further you would like to add?"
I have given my testimony on the matter. I do not care to repeat it again, for I see that three of us there also witness it.
If I may, my prince, Rafat speaks up. As I've said previously, as the Primogen of Clan Tremere, I would like to recognize and commend the loyalty of Jonathan Bagger and the rest of Clan Toreador in these trying times. It should not be seen that the clan is being punished. It was the actions of one. No matter how the Hold of the Beast modified events, I would suggest that perhaps Mr. Bagger being the one who held his loyalty to the court and the Camarilla, even when tested by his loyalty to his own blood, perhaps be recognized with an increase in status.
That does in fact seem reasonable. He, turns to Jonathan Bagger, like, "Jonathan Bagger, for your exemplary behavior in trying times, I do believe you have shown the restraint and decorum that is expected for those we call Ancilla within the Camarilla. As such, I recognize you as such, and I believe others would recognize you as that as well. Unless there are any objections?"
Hannibal would just throw Rafat the stinky eye. The major stinky eye.
Oh, for fuck's sake, you can't put a separate these damn meetings.
But after that, Hannibal will not. Nosferatu will accept it.
Bruges, I have no challenge against it.
No challenge against it from the venture.
And then he
Challenge from the Toreador. Anyone?
and then he turns to Bagger and smiles like, well, this may seem a mere pittance in light of what you have lost, but I hope it gives you, well, some benefit as in the nights to come.
Good sir, I accept this as an honor. It is unfortunate that it could not come during happier days, and I certainly did not expect it to come.
Well, congratulations. I'm still going to call you newbie, but congratulations.
Now, now, as far as further details, there are one or two questions I would like to ask, but given certain things, I believe we can ask them later before we determine the final fate of Grace Martin within the domain of Perth. And turns around and is like, alright, is there anything else that we need to take care of immediately?
Actually, yes, there is one more proposal I'd like to bring to the table of the Primogen Council. Any appointment by the prince or an edict that will be enforceable by the sheriff and as such stands as law within the city to either be confirmed or declined by the majority of the Primogen Council for it to hold any status in the city.
Wait, what?
So, in essence, you're asking,
I am putting a proposal to the Primogen Council's table that should the prince elect to state a law or make a major appointment of a position, that position or law be confirmed by the majority vote, in this case 4-6, of the Primogen Council to maintain stability in the city.
I would suggest that we obviously put in the stipulation that in the short term between Primogen Council meetings, whether they be emergency or regular, that the Prince be able to enact laws. However, they must be reviewed at the Primogen Council meeting when it is next held, which I believe we should perhaps roughly aim for at least one Primogen Council a month.
that was my hope.
Well, certainly in Hannibal kind of we have seen what can happen, and I believe that if such major and important decisions for the whole of the city are reviewed by the Primogen Council would drastically increase our capability to function and to survive. It keeps the peace, people say.
No, to me at least it seems, at least for the time being, a reasonable request.
Actually, as well, sometimes there are difficulties with people attending. I just, for the out of character realities of this,
Yeah.
As long as the meeting is given a week's prior notice, the majority of those present, or obviously there are occasions when there will be emergency meetings, then we will need at least 4 votes. Even if the 6 are not present, we must have the 4.
I think we can all appreciate that sometimes time is of the essence, as with the enforcer situation.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
The prince, of course, has to. Well, I would be very, very satisfied with the prince having the temporary ability to be the one to do the executive decisions, but still bringing the matter to the Primogen Council vote at the earliest opportunity to be either confirmed in support of him and his stance, or then be vetoed and considered situational instead of permanent law.
Well, that. So I believe we are all more or less in agreement here.
Aye.
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 Okay, so we will consider that one passed by a majority vote of the Primogen Council. Now, I do have a few people in mind for some positions within the within the city, but I have not yet met everyone in the city, and some of you, and you being your various clans, Primogen, like I would hope, have met all of the members of your clan within the city. If you have any particular people you would like to personally suggest for any court positions, please let me know in private. Introduce them to me, of course. Obviously, we'll have to be doing formal introductions for most of the city, since, again, I haven't met everyone yet. So, anyone that you think would be, a good position for Seneschal, Keeper of Elysium, Scourge, any other positions that you think are needed or sometimes not always filled, come and speak to me. For the moment, I am satisfied with Eric Salvador's job as sheriff and see no reason to appoint someone else in his place.
Well, that's a good start. Any objections? No? Good. You're stuck with me.
I intend to, within a week or two's time, present all of my choices for various positions. It would be a good idea then to have the next Primogen Council meeting in 1 to 2 weeks' time, so as to quickly, well, agree or veto on those appointments.
Agreed.
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 All right.
The Archon will speak up. As you've discussed that, there is, of course, an individual who I believe is in waiting to meet with the Prince. I do believe that their presence in another city, the city of Cairo, by the Prince there, Mukhtar, which is debatably a Camarilla city, but very much debate on that front, but has confirmed this person previously took residence there, and he'll hand over a letter to the Prince.
He takes it.
Yeah, it's pretty much that Abdul Fattah, previously for a year, had a presence in Cairo, didn't really do much except for one time when he got involved in killing a bunch of Setites. For an entire year, he did one thing pretty much. He just sat there otherwise.
And Abdul Fattah is the Harbinger, right?
Yeah, he's the Harbinger of Skulls.
Right. It's like, well, that does make one other thing that was going to be happening in the near future slightly easier. Thank you, Archon. Is there any other business anyone has to bring up?
No business, just a question. If you, Your Majesty, or my prince, and Mr. Bagger would be available later this night, I would like to get this issue resolved so we can continue living in peace as soon as possible.
I agree, but so yes, some point later this night we should have a meeting to discuss the details on this.
Thank you.
Why wait? Why not do it out here in front of everyone?
Do you want to do it out here in front of everyone?
Better.
Whoa, wait. I understand you're grieving, but let's not jump the shark here. Those things are best done private. If you want to go out afterwards and let everyone know, that's your decision then.
No, he does make a fair point, and actually I'm going to be rolling perception and empathy to see if he really would prefer it to happen right now.
Okay, go ahead.
And I've got a lot of aspects.
Okay. Okay. Just
That would be 6 successes.
Okay, due to his body language, he prefer none of this be happening. He prefer that his grandsire not be about to king, but he wants more and more for it to come to some conclusion. Closure is what he's looking for, and he really doesn't care whether it's public or private.
Right. And then he said, all right, so he looks at, looks at Bagger and says, where exactly is Grace Martin at this point?
Jeff?
I've have her in a safe location at this time. I can have her brought down here momentarily, should you so wish.
I do.
Right, I'll go make a phone call.
Sebastian was switch in his seat, looking a little irritated.
Right, yes, the big box. 10 minutes? Good.
Seeing as how this is a crime for the entire court, or the entire court should be voting.
Oh. At the very least, I believe in seeing this, you'll understand what to expect from me. And I'm guessing we could probably just time skip forward till the.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so
10 minutes later. It also appears that a violin has been delivered as well.
You know me so well, Salvador. You know me so well, Salvador.
And so, is, going to attempt to use telepathy upon, the state's Grace Martin. First off, to double check, is she conscious? And then, if so, is she able to answer mental questions? And unless her willpower is like 6 or less, I
Actually,
fail.
it's in a terrible condition, right? Is it current willpower or is it willpower?
It's current willpower.
Oh, our current willpower is in a terrible condition.
All right. So first off, I'm just checking to see if she is conscious.
She isn't torpor, so she's out by sick, so she's conscious.
In that case, I'll just, say, I'll look at her and ask in her mind, do you regret what you did, and why do you regret it?
She regrets it, I think it would be fair to say, because she ended the life of two kindred she actually cared for. And, well, she doesn't say that she actually cared for, but she ended the lives of two kindred she cared for.
Yep.
And that she has caused such difficulty for her clan and for the court.
And, basically he just looks at her a moment and goes, from what I can tell, she has genuine remorse for her actions. However, seeing as we have had trouble with Diablos in the city, and it seems that is a habit once started that is very hard to break. As much as I would rather not, I see very little recourse but to... he pauses a moment and says, I don't suppose that her sire still walks the night?
If she did have a sire, I do not know of it.
Well, that would simply be putting the decision at a remove anyways. It is my decision in this case that that she be given final death, but because of her remorse, that it be done swiftly. Now, I am unfortunately not skilled when it comes to granting swift death. If there is anyone, he turns to Salvador. Now, if you do not wish to grant it to her, I will try and find someone else, but I give you the first chance, as she is both of your clan, and you are, at the very least, skilled in arms.
Hannibal kind of looks over to...
You look like you want to say something over there.
looks over to Mr. Bagger and to Grace Martin. I am not sure everyone can see this. I don't want to put any blames, but I've seen people going apeshit on council meetings often enough. Are you sure you can handle this? Looks over to Nero.
Nero would just say, we'll stand up very proudly in front of the sheriff, and will say, I vote nay on any decision to destroy my Lady Gracious Martin. And then there's the stake.
Okay. Oh.
It'll be better soon. Next people voting?
Hey. It's unfortunate business, but I see no way around it.
Executor.
It would be the least that would be tolerable would be exile, but I do not wish final death. But given the crimes and as we have seen the likelihood of reoffence that we've seen in others, I do not wish to, if it were to happen with her, not to say that it would guarantee to cause that grief to another city.
What he said.
If you got creep show, get a 1 power point back.
Yes. Well,
He turns to Creel and is like, "Well, I believe everyone so far has weighed in except for you."
I'm normally inclined to weigh in favor of anyone who just has a temperamental issue or has a momentary lapse with their self-control. However, in this case, it is a case of rivalry. I'll move in for the heaviest penalty.
I think.
Yeah, it's like,
All
well,
has been said.
I believe that the Primogen Council has agreed to my decision.
Yeah.
He turns to Salvador. I am sorry to ask you to do this, but
Well, I don't suppose I might impress on the Archon to carry out this sentence. One of Grace Martin's last requests was that music be played if she was ever to be executed.
The Archon.
And, well, Mr. Berger is not in a suitable state to be able to watch this and remain in control of himself. We'll have to pick up the instruments.
The Archon will incline his head. We saw him throughout this part of the conversation. And he moves forward. His hand will go around her neck. Almost not. She's safe, so it's not necessarily in a firm way, but you see claws descending, and he kind of gives you a nod to begin.
Salvador will play a very long, sad violin tune, pretty suitable to this location and the lot of his rather respectable and well-liked Primogen. I can roll performance if you want.
I don't think it's going to be necessary. Let's just assume you don't botch. Because they'll be like, breaks. I need another instrument.
God damn you,
saxophone. I don't even know. It's all under one skill, right? It's fine. As the song comes to an end, the Archon closes his grip with an awful lot of force, and she very quickly turns to ash. The Archon needs to make a degeneration check.
And I think it would make sense for Leon to make one as well, since he did order it.
Yeah, but I think we were doing reduced difficulty for you since you're not actually physically doing it, but you're still ordering it.
Well, I still feel bad.
You still feel bad, good man.
Well, you're a very conscientious individual.
Even
Yes.
the Archon feels bad. The Archon feels really bad.
Hannibal doesn't look like he feels bad about it at all.
Hannibal, feel bad about it before I cut off your fingers. Anyways, back to the scene.
So, is anything else being done to Primogen Council, or?
Now, after it's done, he'll, Leon will simply say, "I hope that the next life treats you more kindly than this one."
Salvador will go about collecting and putting the ashes into a rather ornate urn.
Hannibal
Archon-
rolls his eyes.
The Archon's discreetly But those of you who have Auspex are definitely going to notice a slight difference in smell. He's opened up a pack of wet wipes like you'd have for steak, and he's cleaning off his finger. You think he carries around wet wipes to clean up ash and blood off his claws? He's just slowly, methodically cleaning them. They're spotless, but he's there.
The matter of status quo, I'm sorry to say, may be something unclear, but if we confirm the existing domains.
Oh, yes. All existing domains that I am aware of are confirmed. If there are any I have not been made aware of, and if I would recommend that you suggest to your clan members to come to me to ensure that.
The Archon speaks up. There is a coterie called the Grasshoppers, new arrivals. They requested a domain. Somebody they don't ask for offered a boon, which, as the new prince, I'll be passing over to you for a small amount of territory. I'll give you the details later.
Of course. And of course I'll have to meet them as well, but that's a long list of people I'm going to have to meet, I believe. Alright. In addition, a few announcements I would like to make as Prince. First, before, while I was still a, well, as it were, private citizen of the Camarilla, I ran into a number of things that could have resulted in serious problems, and at least one very promising young Toreador ran into something that resulted in his final death. As such, anyone who is investigating certain areas, I would advise they, at the very least, speak with me about it. Some of these things I may have some knowledge in. Some of these things I may not have any knowledge in, but I seem to have, at the very least, a better understanding than most of unusual circumstances. And so, to prevent anyone else from suffering Charles McGowan's fate, I would advise that no one goes searching for the parts of the sea nearby where the fish do not congregate. It is not likely to be a safe place to go investigating. There are other details that will likely get settled later. As well, if anyone has any, one of the many things I wish to get established is a more regular Elysium that anyone who has any matters to bring to the Prince can easily find me at.
The Archon speaks up. In fact, I've had words with our visiting dignitary of Clan Tremere, this Henry Killinger. He's been helping them out and enlightening them, but will soon be willing to put on protective wards against other creatures that roam the nights. If we pick an Elysium, he will, after receiving such gracious hospitality from your predecessor and the Tremere of Perth, be willing to put these defenses in place in one location.
That would be quite welcome. So, If you... and again, Keeper of Elysium is one of the many positions I intend to fill in the next 2 weeks. So any suggestions as to people who you think would make a good keeper, or just a place you think would make a good Elysium, feel free to forward on to me. And let's see, I don't believe there is any more business. If I'm wrong, please enlighten me.
And I'm going to be taking my new Primogen and returning home with him.
Oh, alright.
Sorry, was that sniggery?
No, I was just thinking of something funny. Don't mind me.
Wow.
Oh, with your leave.
The Archon will say, well, perhaps I could have a brief conversation with the Prince, Primogen Creel, and Primogen Hannibal. Since you've finished up these, just a discreet matter to be dealt with.
Alright. I want to make a manipulation subterfuge roll to hide that I'm scared.
As you should, Vi. As you should.
Oh, he gonna rape me!
Jesus Christ, man.
Okay.
You saw how he killed that pretty lady. You're an ugly Nosferatu.
Hell yeah, that's 6 successes.
Wow,
Wow, you put on it. Wow,
you put one over on Leon, which is an impressive feat.
wow.
I'm looking forward to it, my Archon.
Once everyone else has left, now let's. I would not bring this matter up necessarily in front of the entirety of the Primogen Council, and indeed, if Prince Harris had attained his position, I'd be having a conversation with just the two of you. However, I've got enough people watching enough things to put 2 and 2 together. If you would confirm, I suspect that Marcus Clayton, who had his life ended by the Gaki, but things were being kept discreet. This is my suspicion. If that is the case, then I would suggest, well, we can't, obviously with respect to the Nosferatu and to the Trundling Wombats, we don't necessarily need to make this public, but we can't have a Malkavian neonate and a Nosferatu ancilla. We have recompense made towards their clan, but when a member of Clan Bruja is slain by a member of Clan Nosferatu, it's not a similar thing. It would be saying that the Nosferatu and the Malkavians are in greater standing or worth more than the Bruja, and of course I'm sure you all agree this is not the case. So I would suggest that either the share that of the monetary and material rewards that the Nosferatu will be getting from Clan Toreador be given over to the Bruja Primogen, or the ghoul that may be handed over be given as compensation. It is a skilled ghoul, I understand. Just a suggestion. I wouldn't want people to any perceived slights to fester.
If I may, I agree. Actually, the Clan Bruja should be compensated, and, well, they suffered a tragic loss, as did we. Now, Clan Nosferatu is willing to pay if Bruja want payment. And I'm sure we can work something out that will satisfy Mr. Creel.
I suggest we shall to actually to the lesserment of the benefit as it applies to my clan. However, to enforce a certain point, I try to get confirmed in the city anyway, that we take whatever the Guggy may or may not have, and if not the direct compensation, but perhaps compensation measurable to those assets instead of probably the greater assets of Lady Martin's.
Well, it seems that the two of you will come to a mutually agreeable arrangement, and if you have difficulties, I imagine Prince Harris can be quite a fine arbitrator. And of course, if that doesn't work out, I'm quite happy to bring in on consultation Prince Harris while I'm here.
I hope that won't be needed.
As do I.
I do have one simple question. Is the Gaki dead?
Seeing my prince, you absolutely have the right to know. Yes, he's dead. He was killed in action, sadly.
Well, at the very least, that means that having, having just executed one Diablerist who at least it is the courtesy of effectively turning herself in, if there was another one still at large that had killed someone else, I would have to announce a blood hunt, which is hardly an auspicious beginning for...
No, there's no need for that. The Gaki put up quite the fight, but yeah, sadly, we had to kill him in combat, and the previous prince was kind enough to not be too harsh on us, considering the circumstances.
Yes. Well, if the two of you wish for any specific, wish for any mediation, I'm willing to do it. If you think you can settle the matter equitably between yourselves, that is also fine.
I think we can reach an agreement on that ground.
I am positive for that as well. If we can't, who can?
Now,
Well,
you'd give us a chance. I'd like to have a few words with the prince.
Of course. Hannibal will bow deeply before the prince and even deeper before the Archon till he finally makes his way out.
And Kirill just nods relatively deeply and makes his exit.
They're unfortunately going to be, well, costs you will have to take out on yourself, I would advise, at least. For example, your continuing membership of your coterie might be a spot of contention.
yes.
Perhaps I might suggest that you would officially leave the coterie, however request that the coterie grant you feeding rights and a partial claim in the domain you've acquired.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you'll still get on good with them, but it's not necessarily the biggest shift in the world, but sometimes even the smallest things can make a big difference.
Yes, they can.
I hope to be leaving the city sooner rather than later. However, with you taking in, we will have to, for you, with your recent ascension, I'll have to solve you. He looks angrily at the window wiper. And moves so that his lips can't be read. Having to do something about that window wiper afterwards. He'll be dealt with by top men. But aside from that, Well, of course, there are competent members of your coterie. Some of them are Primogens of their clans. Mr. Valiente is former Primogen, but he had the grace to step down. I imagine he'll become the hand of the clan again. Now, that said, I'm sure they have the merits to acquire some positions, but don't show too much favoritism to them or members of your clan. Though I know Mr. Trills and Mr. Pierce are being quiet at the moment, solitary. But that is fine. I would still officially hold the seat of Malkavian Primogen. Your clan might have other suitable individuals. Perhaps they're currently in the city, or perhaps those will arrive later on. Gives you more sway on the council. But a softer touch, perhaps, that the previous prince would reap greater rewards.
Well, to be perfectly honest, I think I understood a lot of where Lavoisier was coming from, but he rarely, well, spoke to anyone explaining any of his actions. And, well, one or two other minor issues that I will admit are effectively personal prejudice that I did my best to keep out of my dealings with him.
I'm certainly hope you do well in your position. If you require advice, you can ask for it. But to put it bluntly, you will sink or swim on your own merit. I hope to see you swim.
I would much rather swim than sink. I've seen what happened recently to some who sank.
The city has
Lavoisier was one of the lucky ones.
a rambunctious city,
Yes.
full of neonates and young Ensoleil. But it will settle down over time. But though the anarchs may have been ousted, well, there's clearly still a few secrets left in the shadows here.
Oh, yes. And on the downside, as Prince, I shouldn't be going out investigating them myself. On the upside, I can get others to do it for me.
There's always titles for different things, and don't forget, as a prince, well, as long as you get the back of your court, or perhaps in an unofficial way, you can always create new titles.
Oh, yes.
Specific to jobs. Someone to investigate these things for you, and, well, you get to satiate your curiosity, if not on the front lines. Most of the information to make it back to yourself.
Yes. Well, given that there were one or two deals made before this, before recent events, I believe I have one or two individuals that I can send off looking for these things. And thank you for the advice you've given so far.
Good night, Prince Harris. I look forward to seeing more of the new arrangements.
Yes, I have to go now and figure out what they all will be.
That he'll walk over to the window and he'll kind of open it and he'll step out and start talking to the window man who is making all that noise. He was very intense looking. The window man just eyes unblinking, looking straight into his eyes.